Hey, I'm David Malki, and I'm reading this off a TelePrompter, or rather a scrolling cue display, since TelePrompter is a proper noun and a trademark. That's why your phone autocorrects it to have those weird mid-word capitals. I don't know the proper generic noun, but I just made up the term scrolling cue display. There are a lot of great DIY tutorials on YouTube that show you how to make a simple teleprompter for 35 bucks or 10 bucks or $2.50 in a bottle of Sprite, but I decided to see if I could make one with all the things I already had at home. So I don't know if you'll be able to follow along because the things you have at home may not be the same as the things I have at home, although I don't know why that would be the case. But even if you don't, almost everything I use to make this can be obtained for just a couple bucks. You do need an iPad or a smartphone to make this work. I use an iPad, but it's totally usable with any phone with a web browser and a decent sized screen. I'm actually reading this text right now. It's off my iPhone. I'll show you how I did it, if you wanna. A scrolling cue display, I'm gonna make that a thing, works like this. Your camera looks one direction, but if you set up a piece of reflective glass at a 45-degree angle in front of the camera, you can shine something on the underside of the glass that will reflect off and out toward the subject. And so long as you block all the light hitting the back of the glass, the camera won't see the glass at all. Here's what I used to make mine. A piece of black foam core board, a cheap picture frame, make sure it has real glass though. Acrylic or plexiglass might work, but I don't know. A couple of clothespins, some zip ties or giant sperms, whichever this is, I forget. Sorry about that joke, Mom. Black masking tape, a 1-inch diameter short chunk of PVC. Have you seen these GorillaPod tripods? Well, I got this super cheap knockoff version that sucks, so I'm going to use it for this. And some black cloth, I just used a t-shirt. And everything else I had lying around. First, I took the picture frame apart. Normally a frame comes with a piece of glass, a sheet of paper, and then something for a backing. It's often cardboard. This particular cardboard is black on one side, which is great. It really shows you how when there's no light coming through the back of the glass, it's really reflective. I'm using a free app called TelePrompTer. It has nothing to do with digital video. DV is just the name of the company that made it. After turning the brightness all the way up on the iPad, I'll show you how reflective this glass is. And you can see that with the glass at a 45-degree angle, the reflection from something lying flat points right back out at you. This particular frame has this dumb plastic stuff on the back. I was a picture framer for years. I have never seen this garbage before, but it doesn't matter. Since the whole frame is plastic anyway, it's easy enough just to cut it off with a utility knife. So just cut like crazy. I'm saying this as an imperative, as if you have the exact same frame at home. Also, keep your phone books. They're really great cutting surfaces. I don't know what else you would use them for. Now I'm going to mark up the black foam core. This is going to become the stand that holds the glass at the right angle. First, we need to make sure that the base is big enough for the iPad to sit in, so I'll measure and mark that. To make sure that the sides of this stand are at a 45-degree angle exactly, I went ahead and made a template on the computer that I'm going to print out and then use as a form to trace. I can cut two identical pieces out of the same square piece of foam core. They're almost triangles, but I've also included a little notch for the frame to sit in. Now I'll cut the foam core down to size. I'm going to use my mat cutter, which is a tool that is perfect for this, and I assume you all have one too, so go ahead and get out your mat cutters and follow along. You can pause the video if you have to. After cutting out the rectangles, I'll use the paper templates and I'll mark the 45-degree angles and the notches. The most important thing is getting the angle right and also making sure the two of them are the exact same size. Those are the most important things and also the only things. So by definition, there is nothing about this step that is not important. By the way, I didn't cut my finger, I just had a hangnail that was threatening to bleed on everything. If you want, you can make this same design with blood all over it. It doesn't really affect anything structurally. It's more of an aesthetic decision, best left to each individual user. The angle cuts don't go all the way from edge to edge, so I don't want to use the mat cutter for those. But it looks like they're looking good. Look at that good looking look good. The little small ears of the notches might get bent over time, so just to make everything a little bit more durable, I'm going to wrap the cut edges with tape. It's going to look nice. It's going to look so nice and clean, fancy. Prince might invite it to the ball. It might become a princess. Imagine that, my humble little pieces of foam core, a princess. I guess fairy tales really do come true. Wait, is that what people say, that fairy tales come true? That would be terrifying. Giants and ogres and magic trolls and seahorses everywhere. Anyway, I wrapped all this up with tape. Both of the side pieces will attach to the base at 90 degrees. If you wanted to, I suppose you could leave a little space right at the join and use something like duct tape, and you could make a hinge so the whole thing is collapsible. Because I wasn't sure how sturdy this would all be, I said to heck with that idea, I'm going to put it together to stay. But before going ahead and finishing it all perfectly, I gotta make sure that that frame will sit in those notches perfectly. Guess what? It does. It's safe. Time to tape it all up. It's tape time. I love tape time. Tape time's one of my 3 favorite times. Other 2 times are private. Once this is all together, the result is something that looks like the back end of a fighter jet. That's an appropriate analogy because in government hands, this project would cost up to $35 billion to construct, and it might not even be this sturdy. The angle pieces hold the picture frame in the glass at a nice 45. The text shows up great. Later on, we'll make sure to mirror the text so it shows up correctly on the glass, but again, decision left to the user. I don't want to risk the glass falling out, so a little tape will hold it all together while still allowing me to make changes in case I need to. It's not permanent. I don't know where they assemble these frames, but despite it being sealed in plastic from the factory, this glass is dirtier than a 12-year-old on Xbox Live. Then if you get bored, you can pretend you're painting a picture. Now, if any light hits the back of the glass, it's going to reflect the opposite way into the camera, so it's important to shade the lens from any light coming in the wrong way. Here you can see it's reflecting the ceiling. I use a cardboard from the back of the frame to make a shade, and then the t-shirt to cover up all the sides more fully. All you really need is the cloth, but I like that cardboard shade because it prevents the cloth from drooping and getting in front of the lens potentially. Now the last step on the frame is just a cross brace for some support. If you've ever made a science fair project using foam core, you know that you can cut through just one side and you can put a fold in the board. I attach the cross brace using double-sided ATG tape. Now, this is a public service announcement. If you ever do arts and crafts project like this remotely and you don't know about ATG tape, let this former picture framer tell you that it's super great. I'd use it for everything I do, if everything I do required this type of tape, which it doesn't, but which I wish it did. Now that the frame is complete, the next challenge is to figure out how to set it up in front of the camera. For this purpose, I've enlisted a telescoping light stand with a standard 1/4-inch tripod thread on the tip. Now, it seemed easy enough to build a platform to sit on the stand, just put a nut on there or something. But because this frame has a lot of strangely distributed weight on it between the glass and the iPad, I had a bunch of attempts that did not work. Now, I purposefully limited myself to only materials I had on hand. So, this gets progressively more absurd as I try and fail to make it work. Ultimately, I learned the important lesson that I suck. So screw that idea. My next idea was to create a tripod shape in reverse for the platform to sit on. This is much more stable. I'm going to just ignore this tripod screw on the light stand, and instead I have this 1-inch piece of PVC that's going to sit over the shaft. The knuckle on the stand holds the PVC up. This is not coming off. It's not falling. It might rattle a little bit, but it's not going anywhere. So I took this crappy tripod, I held the first couple joints straight, that way there's a space to wrap the zip ties around to attach to the PVC later. Then I bent the rest of the legs back outward to create a sort of an S shape. This now presents the widest possible surface for something to sit on. A couple zip ties are not enough to keep it tight, so use a bunch, they're cheap. Another great feature is that this tripod screw is still accessible in case you want to mount another camera down there upside down. Did you know whenever you clip off the ends of zip ties, you should make a wish? My wish is for them not to ricochet and hit me in the eyes. You can wish for whatever you want. Oh, I don't know if I should have told you my wish, though. And hey, look at this guy. Super stable, right? Not to mention, it's kind of cute. The PVC just drops right over the light stand. A couple clothespins are useful to act as shims, keep it from rattling too much. Plus, the top of the clothespins are going to be an additional point of support for the platform. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is a style of engineering that can confidently be called terrible. But, you want to know a secret? It works just fine. The platform is stable on the stand, and even if it wobbles or sways, it's not in much danger of falling, and you can also adjust it really easily because it's not attached to anything, it's just sitting on there. Even with all the weight of the glass and the iPad, it's pretty sturdy and it's held there just by gravity. Now, I would not use this method in a hurricane, but if you're in a hurricane, do you really need to be reading words off a prompter? Do you not know what to say in a hurricane? Here's a suggestion that you can memorize for later. Oh no, I'm in a hurricane. The whole complete assembly works with a tablet, or you can use your phone. The TelePrompTer app is for iPad or iPhone, maybe there's something else for Android, or there are websites that will generate the scrolling text to you. You just play them in the browser window on your phone. Now, if I had a bigger piece of glass, I might have wanted to make this whole thing bigger and taller. Because on this wide lens, you can see it, the vignette is visible. But then again, it's pretty lightweight the way it is, so maybe it's fine. I do have to zoom in a little bit to get rid of that vignette, but even still, I'm pretty happy with how the final product turned out. It's mechanically simple, it goes together and comes apart in literally seconds. Now, is it foolproof? No. Is it something I would take along to a professional shoot? No. But there's lots of things I wouldn't take along to a professional shoot. That doesn't stop me from using them in the comfort of my own home, right? Like a bathrobe, or some low romantic music. Scented candles filling the midnight air with a rich, musky smell of pumpkin potpourri and lust. I don't know, I guess it depends on the kind of shoot. But what I like about my design is that although I tested and abandoned several configurations along the way, and at one point I was convinced that all I needed to solve all my problems was just one 50-cent nut from the hardware store 3 blocks away. No, instead, I kept thinking of ways to solve the problem using only what I had on hand. It's really rewarding to know that some of these different things that I've just kept for years, stubbornly, they've now actually found a use. And everything that I irrevocably modified, from the picture frame to the crappy tripod to the little 8-inch PVC length, it was just something sitting around that I honestly wouldn't have ever used for anything else. Everything else, the iPad, the light stand, that's all stuff that I can use it when I need to and then take it apart and put it away when I'm done with it. I admit it's not a perfect design. It doesn't have any cool clicking and locking mechanisms. It's not wind resistant. It's not fireproof. It doesn't taste very good. You know, I didn't even bother to spray paint it black, right? What kind of DIY camera equipment YouTube video is this? The answer is a bad one. Thanks for watching. Hope you had a good time.